What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. Saul Canelo Alvarez, who's a unified super middleweight champion, multi-division world champion, #1 on many boxing experts pound for pound list. Not mine. You know, I've stated many occasions that I believe that Terrence Bud Crawford is the #1 fighter in boxing. He's a little bit more versatile than Canelo Alvarez inside the ring. But the #1 category that I believe Canelo is actually #1 in is the face of boxing. And let me clarify that. Let me just expand on that. What I mean by the face of boxing is he is the #1 lottery ticket in the sport of boxing. Now, when you talk about the heavyweight division, the #1 lottery ticket in the heavyweight division is Anthony Joshua. Now, when you talk about 140 pounds and below, that means the junior welterweight division and below, basically the lower weights, the #1 lottery ticket in those divisions is Gervonta Tank Davis. So you basically, in my opinion, got 3 bona fide lottery tickets in the sport of boxing. And I'm going to talk about the #1 lottery ticket in the sport of boxing over Anthony Joshua and Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, you got a couple other guys that are good ticket sellers and do good numbers. If you fight them, you're going to get some pretty good paydays. You know, you talk about Deontay, the Bronze Bomber Wilder, and you talk about Errol, the Truth Spence. But those guys probably #4 and #5. When you talk about Gervonta Tank Davis, I'm talking about guys in the lower weights. I'm not saying he does better numbers than Errol Spence or Deontay Wilder. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you talk about the lower weights, you're not really talking about over the history of boxing pay-per-view draws. And Gervonta Tank Davis to be doing these pay-per-view fights, he's in the rarefied era. Not too many fighters in the history of boxing have been pay-per-view draws in 140 pounds and below. You know, you talk about maybe Arturo Gatti for a minute. He wasn't even at a pay-per-view draw that long as Floyd Mayweather Jr. destroyed him and basically made him a non-entity as far as pay-per-view draws. But he was pay-per-view draw going into that Floyd Mayweather fight. He did great numbers in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And quiet as kept, many people don't want to bring this up. Many people ain't never said nothing about this. But Floyd Mayweather Jr. going into the Arturo Gatti fight was the B-side. Arturo Gatti got a higher payday going into that fight than Floyd Mayweather Jr. He was a draw. It was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Basically, Arturo Gatti's backyard, as he had several big fights in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And then Floyd Mayweather Jr. was able to take that torch from Arturo Gatti, and he became a pay-per-view draw at 140 pounds. But he wasn't there really a long period of time as he started to move up after that. You know, he moved up to 140 and fought Arturo Gatti. He might have had 1 or 2 more fights at 140 and did some pay-per-view numbers with Zab Judah. I think that was a pay-per-view fight. And he also did one with Carlos Baltimore. I believe that was 140 pounds. But after that, he moved on up to 147, and he started being the pay-per-view draw at 147. We all know over the history of boxing that the welterweight division has produced several pay-per-view draws. Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, a lot of guys that fought at 147 been pay-per-view draws. Currently, we're looking at Errol Spence Jr., who I mentioned earlier. They're pay-per-view draw. He's a pay-per-view draw. So it's plenty throughout the history of boxing that pay-per-view draws in the welterweight division. Now, with that being said, Jermall Charlo, who's the middleweight champion in the WBC. If Canelo Alvarez is successful in defeating Caleb Plant tonight in the MGM Grand Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, aka Sin City, Jermall Charlo needs to jump into that ring and call out Canelo Alvarez. He needs to get in Canelo Alvarez's grill and basically say to the world that I want you next. You know, you beat Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant got an opportunity before I got an opportunity. I don't know how he got an opportunity before I got an opportunity, because we could have fought at 154. We could have fought at 160. You kept jumping up weight classes. You kept maneuvering around me, and you kept fighting these opponents that pretty much, you know, fit your style of fighting. guys that you can look good against. Now let's get in here with me. I'm a boxer. I'm a puncher. I'm a guy that's got just as many skills you got. I'm more athletic than you. I'm a dog. Unlike Caleb Plant, I can take punches and I don't have bad reaction to punches, a la the Jose Ukitake fight. Go ahead and watch that fight, man, especially the second half of that fight. Look at the punches he was taking and how he was reacting to those punches. That's the only reason why I don't think he's going to beat Canelo tonight, man. I think he got the skill set to beat Canelo. I think he got the power to get Canelo's respect, but I just think Canelo, as the fight goes on, is going to slowly break this guy down, man. And unlike Jose Ukitake, when Canelo start landing those shots, he's going to finish him, man. I'm looking for a 11th round stoppage for Canelo Alvarez. And if that's the case, Jermall Charlo definitely needs to call him out. He definitely needs to get in that ring. He definitely needs to take the mic from Jim Gray and announce himself to the world, announce his intentions to the world that he wants Canelo Alvarez next. And don't do it in a respectful way. Don't do it in a Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade way, basically coming in there clapping for him and giving him a round of applause for his performance, and then basically got thrown out of his press conference when he asked for the fight. Don't do that. You got to be disrespectful. You got to be what Antonio Tarver did to Roy Jones, that he had his win over John Ruiz, and he became the undisputed champion. Not undisputed champion, he became the heavyweight champion. And that was rarefied air because there's not too many guys that had become a middleweight champion and then become a heavyweight champion. Roy Jones had made history, and he was savoring the victory, and Antonio Tarver crashed the party, called him out, and basically got that fight. Jermall Charlo needs to take a page out of the Antonio Tarver playbook and do the same thing. And basically said, you've been ducking me for years. You ducked me at 154, you ducked me at 160. I'll come up to 168, and so don't duck me now. Let's make it happen. I'm the biggest name. You see this kind of crowd we doing here in Las Vegas, Nevada? We can fight in Cowboy Stadium and do 80,000. Or we can fight in NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, and do 80,000, or close to 80,000. I don't know the capacity of NRG. I think it's about 75,000. Whatever the capacity is, and then you're going to put seats on the floor, we can do 75,000 plus. And it's guaranteed that we can do 80,000, at least 80,000 in Jerry World. And you look at this, I think Jermall Charlo was at the, he was at the weigh-in. And he pointed to the crowd, he said, look at all these people here, 5,000. Just think about kind of weigh-in we can have. We had a weigh-in at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. 5,000, we probably have at least 20,000 at the weigh-in. So my fight is way bigger than a fight with Caleb Plant. So he's got a lot of things he's bringing to the table. And the first order of business is to call him out right after, if he defeats Caleb Sweet Hands Plant. Let me know your thoughts about Jermall Charlo and what you think he should do. You think he should come in there and basically try to punk Canelo Alvarez, try to steal his shine, because Canelo going to be savoring the moment, making history in the sport of boxing. So he going to feel some type of way of Jermall Charlo try to get in that ring and challenge him. He's going to be mad. You see what he did in Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade fight. He started cussing and he got him thrown out. It'd be interesting to see what would be Canelo Alvarez's reaction if Jermall Charlo indeed calls him out in the middle of that ring after his victory over Caleb Plant. Let me know your thoughts and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.